Welcome back to Leading Our Own Way. Today, we begin our 5-part series here on YouTube with Order of Australia recipient Rae Bonney, who's revolutionising the conversation around men's mental health. This opening segment today, Rae shares her profound and personal mental health journey and the events that shaped her mission. It's an awesome mission that she's on. Make sure you tune in and keep coming back every night. Full episodes are on Spotify and Apple, but if YouTube's your spot, stay here with us all week. Anyway, enjoy. Here's Rae. Welcome to Leading Our Own Way. I'm your host, Andrew White, and this is the podcast that unveils captivating narratives of resilience and personal triumph. This podcast is for anyone seeking inspiration and insights on overcoming life's challenges. Follow and subscribe, and then we can lead together forever. Rae Bonney, welcome to Leading Our Own Way. I want to ask the question that I typically go with, and it's a standard question we always ask, but I feel like we always just ask so we can move on with the question. But how are you feeling today, Rae?
Well, I'll always think about this question, Andrew, because we often ask each other, how you going? In Australia, it goes, how you going, mate? Yeah, good. That's the standard thing. So I'm always very thoughtful. And when I stop, people go, are you all right? I go, no, I'm just thinking about it. This is a real question you've asked me. Today I have a headache. I'm in the middle of quite an intense period of anxiety. And anxiety for me is quite overwhelming. I have trouble breathing. It's quite painful inside my body. My mind is sort of leaking out all over the place. And anxiety comes to me just out of the blue, no particular reason. But, it's just part of what I live with. So, yes, I'm in the middle of an anxiety episode at the moment. That's 2 days in at the moment.
Oh, really?
Please don't feel sorry for me.
No, it's. I'm glad you've been honest, because I think most people do go past those moments and they go, yeah, I'm feeling okay, I'm feeling fine, and so we can just move on and carry on with the moment. We're obviously in a safe space to do so, but I've suffered with anxiety as well. What have you ever reflected on why this moment of the last 2 days started, or is it a much deeper root of a longer period of time in the past?
Oh, I'm almost 57 years old and I've lived with it for all of my life. So, yeah, I've done a lot of work understanding the foundations of it, where it comes from, and it will arrive for no apparent reason. Yeah. So, in this instance, I don't know, but I'm used to that. So how I work with it is really, I guess, being very confident and trusting that I know it will pass.
Yeah.
And knowing the things that I need to do to self-care to expedite that as well. So it comes from nowhere and it will leave from nowhere. But the kinder I am to myself in terms of sleeping, eating, not putting myself in situations with people that are unnecessarily stressful, all of those things, I just don't do any of those things. So I minimize the impact, or minimize the risk of it being quite extensive.
Yeah. Do you feel it coming before it comes, if that makes sense, or does it just hit you?
Generally, I wake up with it. And it's just, a feeling of, as I said before, not being able to breathe, just this overwhelming feeling of impending doom. I start having sort of like people describe panic attacks. So mine sort of sits in paranoia, where I'll start worrying about my children unnecessarily. And that's absolutely everything. You read those memes or books about, a million ways you can die. That's all going through my head at once. Wow. So it can get really, really overwhelming. So self-talk is very critical in how I manage through and not allow those thoughts to become really super overwhelming.
Yeah. So I do have a question lying on with that, but I'm going to be vulnerable in the moment. I worked on myself dramatically to get rid of, or to move away, or to be able to sit in it longer and healthier with my anxiety. But I can feel myself coming to sweat when I went through something quite hard a few years ago, the triggers and the fear of the unknown, and when something was going to get me, I started to sweat, and I used to go to the toilet like 6, 7, 8 times a day, take my shirt off and dry myself off before, so I could reset and feel half normal again, if that makes sense. And I could feel it coming, and then for years I took myself out of those chronic stress situations, and then I've re-entered parts of my life now where I'm going to go down that road of the fear of the unknown. It's exciting, but it's also quite scary, and I know I'm going to be fine, but the physiological response is still, occurring here and there. And for me, I can feel it starting to drip. It's even like I've noticed in the car when I'm driving a long distance, and I know where I'm going, but I know I'm going to be fine. So I suppose that part of my life I've conquered, but the root of it, it's still there, even though I've massively worked on myself. You mentioned though, you wake up like that. From the point of waking up, what do you do? Do you prepare yourself from the moment of stepping out of bed so you can have a half decent day, or you can have an excellent day? Is there a routine that you have in the morning?
I don't make it out of bed, Andrew.
Oh, even still to this day?
That's not happening. No, for me, it's very intense. So yeah. I'm pretty paralyzed. I'm pretty frozen. And this is what it looks like. So I'm not pretending to be happy. This is actually what I look like when I'm experiencing it. So, wow. In this period, getting out of bed isn't an option, and I'm fine with that. I'm not stupid. I'm not weak. I'm not pathetic. I'm not suffering. I'm not struggling. I'm just going through a period of anxiety that I'm used to, and I know where it comes from, and it's always going to be there. So I'm always going to have to work with it. So my responsibility is to take care of myself. Like if you live with diabetes, if you live with asthma, you have to take particular care of yourself. It's no different.
Yeah, of course.
And as you pointed out as well, so it's very salient that everybody experiences this differently. So there's no one size fits all solution of going and having a walk in the sun, having a good mindset, being resilient. I'm as resilient as all get out. I'm one of the strongest people I know. So I don't ever identify when I'm going through a period like this that I'm ever weak. Because I'm very strong, and I think my strength sits with trusting and accepting that this is a part of who I am.
Yeah, it's powerful. That is because when I was 32, I'd never experienced until I went through something quite traumatic for myself. I've been through tough times before, but this was really just internal for me. And I'll be open, and I've said it before on other podcast episodes, I used to look at anxiety as a weakness. When I've looked at you online and I've seen what you've done and the things because we're going to get into that, and the things you do, you don't appear weak. You don't look like you suffer, that you wake up with anxiety and you're crippled with it. You just don't come across like that, especially the things that everything you've done, gives off pure confidence, doesn't it? Do you ever visualize that you'll work through it at a much deeper level where this won't happen again in the morning, where you will thrive without, or are you accepting it will be part of your life?
Part of who I am. If you think about our unconscious mind, we operate probably 99% on our unconscious. And our unconscious is this big data pool of every experience that's ever happened in our life, and what we know. Some of it we don't, and that sits very, very deep in our unconscious. But for me, all of these kinds of attributes of mine were set up from when I was a child. I was raised in trauma, where the way that I had to adapt myself was to keep safe. So, there was a constant feeling of not being safe, a constant fear of something coming out of the blues. But, you could be pretty certain there was going to be something. So that sits in my unconscious. So that is always going to be fished out at certain times. So I guess my key is to actually find, what things activate that fishing line that goes down and grabs that unconscious memory and brings it up and joins it into the present moment.
Yeah.
So again, I'm pretty comfortable with living with what I have. and as I said, take responsibility to self-care as much as I can, because, you know, my job does carry me through 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, and I have to be very agile. So the way I run my business, I know there's probably going to be probably 1 or 2 days every second month where I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. Have you ever, because you said something then a second ago, and I thought it was quite powerful, and it connects with, have you worked on taking the emotion out of the memories? And I know we're going to dig into of where this came from, and will become very crystal clear. Is the emotion out of the memory now, or are those two variables still connected, very much connected?
Well, you know, in that unconscious data pool that we have, you know, especially when we're young and we don't have much language, most of the trauma that occurs will be attached to an emotion.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, the emotion does be attached. So mine quite often is fear. So I'll have, as I mentioned before, overwhelming feelings of fear and not feeling safe. So, for example, last year when I was overseas, my house here in Australia was robbed, and it was a very dramatic robbery, and lots of things gone. And people wanted to be able to support me in people, you know, invading my house, people taking my stuff. None of that affects me at all. I really don't give a shit about stuff. And as long as my kids are fine, I don't care. But the overwhelming feeling and emotion I had was not feeling safe. So
Yeah.
not feeling safe in my home. It was just, but that is completely connected to the feeling I had when I was a kid, and where I lived, I was never safe. So it's this. That's what was coming up for me. So that's very emotional, and it's very difficult to rationalize that feeling when that unconscious emotion is emerging. So speaking to myself, or speaking to the child part of me, because we all have parts of ourselves, and I speak to all the parts of myself differently. So when I'm speaking to the child inside of me, I'm speaking to her a lot more empathically. The version of me now that is, you know, very strong and resilient and worldly and practical and philosophical, all those things that I've acquired over the many years, I use all of those things to talk to my little girl piece of me, and make sure she's okay.
What do you say to her now then?
Uh, I think it's more of a gesture of, sometimes I will tell her to shut up, like when she's about to really kick off and, you know, be a little bit acting out, I'll say, shh, just stop, especially when I find that my little girl is interacting, say, with my teenage son, who's very hormonal at the moment. There's no way those two are ever going to be able to have a conversation when they're activated.
Yeah.
So yeah, the bigger version of me will come in and just say, shh, I've got this.
Yeah. Yeah, well, when emotions are running high, your logic, your prefrontal cortex is completely switched off, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you know, that's why I don't like it when teachers are trying to talk to kids when they're emotionally high. Like, sit with them, just hold space with them, let them go through the emotion, and when the prefrontal cortex comes online, you can start to bring some logic into the conversation. But otherwise, there's just non-existing. You know?
Oh, absolutely. I always encourage people, research, you know, internal family systems as a methodology. It is just amazingly effective in understanding self. And I think that's part of, you know, my approach is, you know, I'm eternally fascinated by the human condition. But when I started being more fascinated about myself and learning to understand all of my attributes and pretty much how to drive all the pieces of me, that's when you have to pull it apart like an engine to go, okay, what drives this thing? And it's very complex, and you've got to know all the pieces. You can't just expect to be able to propel it forth in one globule. It's, you know, this blobby flesh suit that we run around in, it's all very, you know, physical, but the insides, we don't often pay enough attention.
No, we don't. I think that's a whole different episode of a podcast in itself, to be fair. And we're here for you. So we'll go just quickly then, going back to your younger self, opposed to saying something to your younger self. If you could go back to the Rae, I mean, you picked the age. if you could ask her a question, what would the question be that you would ask her? It's a
I
tough one,
don't.
isn't it? I've thought
Yeah.
about
Well,
asking
yeah.
myself a question when I was young.
I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, she's so much part of me that I guess I'm always talking to her about lots of different things. So there's no specific question. My everyday takes care of her.
Yeah, yeah.
So I couldn't answer that.
And the taking care of the younger Rae, would you say you're doing a great job at that then?
Yeah.
How?
Oh, from what I just said, I'm
Yeah,
I'm always in contact. I'm always listening.
sure.
I'm empathic. I'm not judging.
Mm.
You see people's narrative, and a lot, I really stay away from words. You probably picked this up already about, dark times, black times, struggling, suffering. It's not useful in the way that I would speak to my little girl. I have to raise her up and say, wow, you got us through that,
Yeah.
you know, and I rely on her a lot in looking at her resilience, that she was able to get us through there and enable me to have the life that I have. So for her, I'm very grateful. Grateful that she was born with just naturally high levels of resilience, a brain, a drive, a stamina, a will to have a better life. And that's what I get. So there's a lot of gratitude. Just because she's small doesn't mean she's not awesome.
How old are your children?
Rose is 30 and George is 27 and Rory is 16.
Nice. And they're fully aware of your journey and path that you...
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they'll be able to take so much power away from themselves, knowing what you've done, what you've been through, and what you are doing currently as well, right? They must be proud of their
Oh,
mum.
yes, they are. They are. But I guess having been raised in my environment, I guess it's like any kid, what they're raised in, it's just what they know. I mean,
Yeah.
you see, you hear kids who have been raised by very, famous, iconic people, Elton John, or, and they just very much take for granted their parents' fame. A lot of kids haven't ever, watched their parents in movies and things like that. And I think it's kind of similar,
Yeah.
not taking away from their pride or for their respect for what I've been able to achieve. But honestly, a lot of it I've been inspired by them because they do push me, and they push me, especially my daughter Rose. She's frightening. So many career decisions I've had to make it because I'm scared of Rose and disappointing her.
Are they going down a similar path to yourself professionally, or are they completely different?
They're all very different. Rose, I'm also a grandmother as well. So Rose is a mother, but she also works in law. So she's terribly by the book, organized, black and white. If you want something done, you get Rose to do it.
Yeah.
So when I was talking about my robbery earlier, I was overseas visiting George, my middle son, in London, and I didn't have to worry about a thing because Rose was all over it. Police, insurance, rebuilding, reclaiming. She was across everything. So that's Rose. I'm not that.
Yeah.
George, however, he's a chef in London, and he is a powerhouse. We're very similar in that we'll see a grain of salt and go, I can make something big into that and run with it. So not only is he a chef at a Michelin star restaurant in London, but he's also an ambassador for a pretty cool sporting brand in Europe.
Wow.
He runs his own mental health charity as well called 8 Miles, which is a running-based club, which he started here in Melbourne, which is now in London as well. He's only 27. He's not doing the same thing as me, but a very similar kind of vibe. And Rory, he's in year 11 at school, and he's the one. I mean, he was actually conceived while I was at university. So he's been on every single skerrick of the journey.
Yeah. Wow.
And he has, he's a massive advocate for the human condition, men's health in particular, given that, that's where I'm at. But he's very balanced in his view. For a 16-year-old, he's got a really level head on him about equity, equality, and and really just advocating for men in a healthy way and getting away from the current narrative, which is all very scary and horrendous.
Sounds like they've got many connections to you. They're just doing it in their very own individual way.
Yeah, we can all talk. That's one thing we all have in common.
Yeah, I'm famous for that too. But you're right about the son thing. I came here to play basketball originally, and my son plays basketball for his state team here in the area that we live, and he doesn't care what I've done in the game of basketball. Doesn't care. So going back to your movies and celebrities, he does not care. So I've had to stop coaching and take a break because I'm like, please listen to me. But no. So going back to you though, Rae, it's a perfect time, I suppose. Well, first of all, thank you for joining me on my journey. I normally start off that way, and we normally start off of how you're leading your own way, and you're doing some wonderful, wonderful things. And I think you know where we should start, because this is phenomenal, and I've never had a guest on the show with this before, in this recognition. I think you know what I'm talking about. Can you tell us about what's just recently happened in your life?
Yes, well, I received a Medal of the Order of Australia this year in 2025, which is an award that's bestowed on people here in Australia who've gone above and beyond in their community, and mine was awarded for my work in mental health, particularly men's health, which it's a great honour. But I think the important thing for me, anyone that knows my trajectory knows how long and hard I've worked in advocating for men. It's a real nod in the right direction, having the importance and relevance of men's health recognised at such a high level. It was really meaningful for me, and very proud to have been the recipient and the carrier of the messages. So this week the ceremony did happen at Government House here in Victoria, because I'm in Victoria.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and it was so the family came along. Not George. George streamed in from London, which was pretty cool. But yeah, it was something quite remarkable and very special to be part of.
Absolutely incredible. Massive congratulations. So let's talk about how you got it. What work have you done over the years? Why the government felt you deserved that award then? Join us tomorrow to hear more from today's incredible guests and learn valuable insights to help you lead your own way. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you then.